Hey, good morning, friends. Or afternoon. It's afternoon now. Monday, July 1st. It is currently 1:02 p.m. where I am at, and we're going to carry on. This morning, after our stream, I took a couple of minutes and set up a project page here on my website. You go to developerdad.com. Come on, let's edit. Go here, hit the projects, and then Game Manager or Game Master Tools with dotNet. Click in here, and I'll be adding the archives for each of these stream sessions in order, talking about what we're doing, the tools we're using. I need to put a link to the GitHub repository on here. Yeah, this morning we set up the GitHub project in the repository. We added some work items that we're going to go through, and we're going to go through these together. And we got things sort of set up in Visual Studio Code. We haven't actually added the dotNet solution or any of the C# projects or started coding yet, but we're gonna do this what I consider to be the right way, and we're gonna think first and then code. So I'm gonna close this website window, and I'm going to open the Finder, pull it on over here. We're gonna go to code, right click on GM tools. I added a quick action so that I can start working on this stuff right away just by right click and open MVS code. I had to go to Copilot for something like that. So requirements. Let's pop over to the GitHub, and we'll go to our projects. And let's look at the GM Tools MVP. And we want to gather the desired features and requirements for this application. So brainstorm a handful of tools that would make my life as a game master easier when I'm planning and sitting at the table. All right. Well, the initial problem that I stated when we started this project is whenever my players run into a shopkeeper or somebody at a tavern or on the street or what have you, they want to know what their name is and what they look like and how they seem and all of that stuff. And I'm really, really bad at coming up with those answers on the fly. So let's build or start brainstorming some ideas for things that we could add to a piece of software that will make some of those questions easier to answer. Functional requirements, what does this thing need to do? Technical requirements. Let's reorder this a little bit. Feature wish list. We'll add a heading for that. Now, I want to do this as a table. So, feature short description priority. And we'll just add the next thing. And I apologize for this part. It's not going to be super exciting for y'all to watch while we just do like markdown stuff. All right, the first feature is going to be a townsperson generator. go to the start and add some spacing. Randomly generate some details about NPCs, non-player characters, party encounters. Priority, we're going to leave this blank. Unassigned for now. Another thing, initiative tracking. It'd be nice to have an app I can store the encounter characters and have their initiative order tracked for me. Unassigned. Those are the only two that I can come up with off the top of my head, like in the moment. Oh goodness, what am I doing? Let's... Ah! There's a GIF for this. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm going to close these windows down a little bit. I want... What's that? Open changes. Open preview to the side. Here we go. All right, let's send our Explorer off. Feature wish list. Let's link to that. I'm going to copy that. Make this clickable. And make that navigable. There. Unassigned. Oh, I've got an extra. Let's get rid of that. Save. All right. And we are going to choose this townsperson generator as our priority. MVP. Later, if ever. We got to scope this stuff. Otherwise, we're going to be programming forever, and we'll never be done, and I'll never have something that makes my life easier at the gaming table. All right, functional requirements. What does this thing need to do? And let's organize these by the features. So, I'm going to add a level 3 Townsfolk Generator. 1. Create a create a random NPC that the players encounter on their adventures. Actually, they need names. That doesn't help me. Each one needs a name. What do they look like? See? and add that double space. D. How tough are they? Just in case I've got somebody in the party that believes the whole game is about destroying every character they meet and taking their stuff. So we're going to need to store some lists that we can draw from to create names, appearances, personalities. 3, we'll need a way to generate each NPC's basic game stats. 4, we should be able to supply basic information about a character to be generated when we have it. Their profession, their species, if I already know it, etc. So there's our basic requirements. We need to be able to create random NPCs. We need to give each of them a name, an appearance, some vague idea of their personality, how tough are they. We're going to need to store some lists so that we can have some things to pick from when we choose things like species and job and rough appearances and basic personality descriptions. We'll want some probably random names. And we need a way to generate each NPC's basic game statistics, and I want to spell that right. And we should be able to supply basic information about the character to be generated when we have it. These are some pretty good top-line requirements. Now, technical requirements. 1. The components we create for this application should be reusable, as is practical. 2, we do not yet want reliance on external resources like databases, AI models, or anything like that. This application should run locally on the end user's own hardware. 3. As this application grows, we may need to refactor. We may need to move some capabilities into their own component areas. perhaps even run them as separate background services if we decide other applications can use those capabilities. A, do not build this as a microservices system now. We simply want the internal code to be organized in a way that allows us to pull pieces out later if we need to. All right. For now, this will be a local application with a simple user interface. There's no need for a fancy graphical UI just yet. All right. These are some basic technical requirements. These don't really talk about any functionality. They just talk about things we want to keep in mind as we're developing it. Five, the application will be built in C# against dotNet 8. Six, we will add automatable tests as appropriate as we implement our components. Save. All right. And here is our basic technical or functional and technical requirements. Let's make this clickable. Whoops. # Townsfolk Generator. All right. And that right there is our basic requirements. Five, when we've generated an NPC, we should save that character's information to a file we can access elsewhere. And let's spell should right. Okay, let's talk about what these requirements are. First thing I want to do, before we dive into that discussion, is I want to commit this change. And this is issue number 1. Gather desired features and requirements for this application. All right. Now, I just remembered a wish listy, Not really a wish list, but a pie in the sky requirement for this thing. 6. If practical, generate the basic information for an NPC with suggestions for all those details, and feed that to an LLM so that a more detailed and rich profile for these characters can be created. Now, 7. If LLM usage is built, let's target a small language model that can be run on the end user's hardware rather than paying gobs of cash to a cloud service provider for GPT-4. Save. Yes. When I was first thinking about this project concept a week or two ago, I actually thought to myself, it'd be really cool to generate the basic stats and species and maybe some high-level adjectives about their experience or their appearance, and maybe a couple little adjectives that that describe a personality and what they do and stuff like that, and feed that into an AI prompt and have a large language model, or actually a small language model, do that writing for us, give us back the description, we can edit it as necessary, and then save it off to the world that we're creating. I've actually experimented with running Microsoft's Phi 3 Mini small language model on my laptop, and I haven't gotten it working through any of the ONNX or anything like that, but if I host it in something like Ollama or Jan.ai, I can then expose a local API endpoint, and theoretically, according to the documentation for those products, I can treat that just like an OpenAI API and use semantic kernel for it. So once we get the basics down, we might do some playing around with actually integrating some AI. It's not a promise. It's something I would like to do. It all depends on how much time the first stuff takes. So we've got our requirements roughed out. They're not super detailed yet, but we haven't fully discovered those. But these, as far as requirements go, I think it's okay. I think it works. Technical requirements, and I think we're going to need to dig into the details of how we think we want to do this stuff. We'll do that next. The GitHub issue, again, let's review, is number 1. Okay, so listed some basic functional and technical requirements for our Townsfolk generator. Commit. and sync. Oh, cancel. I gotta touch this file real quick. Save it. Oh, come on. This commit is for issue number 1. Commit. And push that up. Yes, do it. Well, that's doing its thing. We'll let it run in the background. And I am going to say, let's just go ahead and add. We're going to design and build a Townsfolk Generator. Comment. And let's close. All right, close that one. And over it goes. Prioritize the feature requests. We did that while we were doing that. So of the 2 feature ideas, we picked the Townsfolk Generator. And I want to attach this to repository destination, branch name. I don't want to create a branch. We're going to put this on this one. Here we go. That's better. We pick the Townsfolk Generator, close with comment. Good. We'll close this one. Define the requirements for the selected MVP feature. This is going to go into in progress. Let's open this guy up. All right, so, excuse me. To do this, I think we need to add a new folder. And I'm going to call it features. I'm going to add a new file called Townsfolk Generator .md. All right. Let's hide our source control for the time being. Pound Townsfolk Generator detailed requirements from the main requirements. How do we link back? Doc slash requirements.md. We have, and I'm just going to copy and paste. So I'm just going to copy and paste the whole darn thing. Copy that. Paste it here, and we're going to reorganize a little bit. We don't need the differentiation there. Let's back that up. components we create for this application should be as reusable as is practical. We do not yet want reliance on external resources like databases, AI models, or anything like that. It should run locally on the end user's own hardware. What's the MD for strike down, for strike through? Yeah. It doesn't matter. Hello, Master Trooper India. How do you do? Can I reply? We have a first-time chatter. How do I don't know how to Twitch. All right. I'm just going to say, hello there. Here we go. All right, back to this. So let's go through these one at a time. This is starting to inform what our NPC is going to look like. And let's see here. We should be able to supply basic information of the character when we have it. That suggests optional parameters. We want to be able to save the information that gets generated. So, how do we take these functional requirements with our technical requirements and start baking them into something? Let's define NPC generation process. 1. What is their species? Gather basic information. A. I should bring up the preview of this. Here we are. Gather basic information. Profession. I got the indent on that all wrong. How did I do it in requirements? I got some nicely indented stuff here. Oh, that's architecture. Ah! Requirements. Let's look here. Okay, that looks like 4 spaces. That's a tab. Is it going to help us at all? Did I do this right? Sometimes Markdown gives me such fits. Okay, yeah, it's fine. We're good. Okay. So it's a tab. Save that. Come over here. Pop all the way out to the margin and do it as a tab. Profession B. Species. Can I spell? Species C. Okay, so in order to generate the appearance, we need to know their species. Because elves don't look like gnomes, don't look like dragonborn. 2. Derive the things we can derive from species and profession. A. Height. B. Weight. C. Appearance. Three. Generate game stats. A. Assume level 0 commoner. Template. B. Select rolled stats or templated stats. And that becomes A, and that becomes B. I got to flip those around. So B becomes A becomes B. Four. C. Make adjustments to basic abilities from species. Generate name. Oh, that can go up. D. Name. Four. I did the markdown for our numbered list in an incorrect manner. I'll learn one of these days. Four. Generate personality from profession, species, and stats. Because some of the stats describe personality, like wisdom, intelligence, charisma. Those could be descriptive in terms of what a particular character is like. I got my spacing wrong here. Just a second. And then up here, there we go. Generate game stats, generate personality from profession, species, and stats. All right. And we've identified a data type. Profession, species. I'm going to add another one here. Background. I wonder how many backgrounds are defined in the 5E SRD. I think we better look that up, because I don't want to code anything into this unless it's in that systems reference document that's been released under Creative Commons. Because I don't want to fall afoul of some giant billion-dollar corporation's army of lawyers. 5E SRD. Here we go. dnd5e.info. Yes, that's fine. We're gonna use this quite a lot. Creating a character. Oh wow, we have Dragonborn in the SRD. Oh my gosh, go away. No, you know what? I don't trust this site. We actually need to go to 5E SRD. I want to get the information directly from the company that made it. And that means going to Wizards of the Coast. And we want to download the 5.1 systems reference document, including Creative Commons here. I want to design content using 5th edition rules. Yep, we'll do it. I want to publish my original campaign world using 5th edition rules. Okay. We're not doing anything in the realms. I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to be giving this away. This is going to be open source Creative Commons stuff. Yeah, whatever. So we need that. Legal information, Creative Commons Attribution 4.0, CC by 4.0, sure thing. This actually brings up a new requirement. We are going to limit the stored choices that the application can use in generating an NPC for us to the material in the D&D, excuse me, what's that document called? Okay, here's that stuff. Page intentionally left blank. System reference document, and I'm going to go ahead and grab this right here in the D&D 5e. Let's make this a link. 5e SRD. And actually we need to do this as a regular href equals paste target equals underscore blank /E SRD. /A. We may want to implement this for other game systems in the future. So we make sure we design the core components in a way that allows us to do this. So we've identified a data type, our game character. We've also identified a resource and an engine. Rule set and a dice bag, respectively. So a rule set is going to have the lists with the data that list out the species we can use, the backgrounds that we're legally allowed to use, stuff like that. The dice bag is going to be a component that we build that allows us to do some of this random generation, and it'll simulate dice rolls for us. Now, I'm not going to do graphical, like push the D20 button and it rolls a graphic of a D20 and it comes up with the graphic of the natural 20 or the natural 1 or anything like that. I'm not a graphics developer. I'm a systems designer, architect. We're using this stuff to kind of demonstrate these processes. So this is going to be text-based for now. Maybe somebody will offer to do some graphics programming once we've got something that can do the basic calculations at some point, but I'm not counting on it. So list out all the things that the selected feature needs to do. These requirements should be recorded in docs requirements MD. Okay, yeah. We are not going to account for AI augmentation during our initial design. Gathering profession, species, background, profession, choose or supply or role. Gotta put this back in. Supply or role. Background, if we do it, is going to be another supply or role. All right. A resource and an engine, a rule set. I think we should probably detail out what a rule set is. What is a rule set? A rule set is a collection of named lists or other objects that define the choices available, the choices and effects of those choices that exist within a particular game's rules. And that's very, very broad. An RPG rule set is a more specific version of that concept. It may include lists of character species, professions, backgrounds, and backgrounds. Each item in those lists may modify or enhance, may modify a character that has those items, those attribute values. We'll dig into that a little bit more later on. We're almost out of time, and I have a hard stop at 2 today. I actually have a job interview at 2:30, and I want to make sure I'm on my A game to talk to this person, because it's actually a hiring manager for the company instead of some random recruiter dude who is going to make me all kinds of promises and not get back to me ever. So I want to make a good impression, even if it is just a verbal interview over the phone. Just before we go, rule set, dice bag. These rule sets will primarily manifest as data surrounded by constraints. Sounds like a resource to me. Save. What is the dice bag? And why are you calling it an engine? All right. In the School of Architecture that I was brought up through, there are 5 primary types of components that you're going to encounter when you're developing software. You've got a client, which could be a human, it could be another piece of software, it could be a user interface, it could be a person interacting with an API, it could be another piece of software interacting with your API. You have a manager, and a manager is responsible for stitching the capabilities that are coded into your system. It's responsible for stitching those capabilities together to create some desired piece of functionality. An engine is a type of component that only does compute. It does math, it generates random numbers, it changes the values of objects that we might create. There's an argument both for and against using an engine for things like object validation. If you need to transform an object from one form to another, you could create an engine for that. If that transformation needs to be configurable in a predictable way, or that transformation process has to change very, very frequently. And then finally we have, or not finally, but we also have resources. Resources are things like external APIs, remote devices, databases, file systems, remote cloud resources and services, and stuff like that. And then finally we have utilities, which are components that don't really have any business value functionality, but they facilitate the creation of the software or the operation of the software. Things like logging, message buses, standardized serialization code, those types of things would go under the utility archetype. Now, it's almost 2 o'clock. I am going to save our work. Let's explain what a dice bag and an engine is. An engine is a component of our software that does something. Logic, math, etc. The dice bag is what we're calling our random generator engine for now. Save. All right. I think we've got some pretty decent thinking about, and a whole lot of words, but we've talked through our various types of, or our different requirements. And we've got almost enough to start thinking about what we got to build. And that means we can come up here. We need to grab number 3. Recorded some details about what our Townsfolk Generator needs to do. Made some notes about what some of the code objects might be. And what's the GitHub issue for that? Just to keep things on the up and up. Number 3. Okay. Let's commit it and sync. Okay. And we've got all of that stuff up here. I am going to go ahead, pull this guy over to the Dunzo pile. Here we go. Can we close it? Let's close it. It's closed. Good. All right. Tomorrow, we are going to go through all of those requirements in the notes that we made, and we're going to talk about volatility. And that's probably all we're going to do tomorrow morning. But that's okay, because this is an important thing to think about, and it's an important thing to demonstrate. We'll be able to ask very simple questions about each one of these requirements. Things like, is this part going to change often? Are we going to need to use this requirement for other use cases somewhere else? Even if those use cases are really, really similar, like is there a variation of our NPC generator that we might need to use that stuff for as well? And we're going to start identifying what is volatile and how are each of these requirements volatile, and it'll give us a better view of how we should continue breaking down these requirements. And that's going to make our job it's going to make the job of architecting and designing the component manifest a whole lot easier once we get to that. If we do this volatility analysis now, we're going to go into the component design with a much better idea of what we need. Down here, these notes that I made, and I'm trying to scroll. These are all subject to change. This is a living document. I am going to go ahead and do the pull request because I want to make these changes that we did today, I want to make them public. Let's do it. Incorporate the work we did on July 1st into the main branch. Projects. Let's pick a project. GM Tools MVP. Okay. I'm going to assign myself to this. This is all documentation and planning. All right. Milestones, I'm not using those. The description. To automatically close issues. I'm not going to mess with that. Create pull request. And it's done. I don't have any automatic actions or anything like that defined for this yet because there's nothing to deploy. Additionally, we're probably not going to deploy any of this stuff to the cloud. Continuous integration has not been set up. That's fine. There's nothing to integrate. Let's just merge it. Do it. All right. I gotta bounce. I will see you all tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here at that Developer Dad on Twitch. Have a great afternoon. Try to relax tonight. Take care.